Okay, so for a few weeks now, I've been thinking about making a video basically on the state of the gaming industry. Ever since January, right? Xbox in particular has been in the news. Most of those news cycles have been extremely negative or concerning or whatever have you. And wanted to talk about that, wanted to add my own 2 cents. However, what was I going to say that was going to be new? You guys, if you watch this channel or if you're new, feel free to go back and see the videos. They are still there. They are still content that I stand behind. But I've talked about Game Pass. I've talked about how it is a wonderful service that made a crucial mistake with day and date. And I've talked about how live service, sorry, not even live service, but I've talked about how subscription models cannot work for gaming the same way that they do for music and TV. And just to like put it in a nutshell, music and TV have always been streaming. They started out as streaming. Streaming isn't new. When you had your TV, and it was, you had the antennas and you had to like put them in the right positions, that was streaming. That's what it is. It was streaming over the airwaves, right? When you had the radio and you had to tune into a particular channel, that was streaming. So for these two particular mediums, streaming can work really, really well because really all you have done is first you have changed the actual milieu of communication, the format through which, or I guess the protocol through which is being transmitted rather than radio, it becomes, the internet or whatever. And then the second is that you have made the end user have more control over what they are listening at any particular point in time. Few of us tune into the radio anymore the same way that we used to in the past. Or even for people that's tuning into the radio on the commute or what have you, it's like, that's definitely not a thing that you choose to do, but you have a million other options where you can decide, on demand what it is that you listen to. Another thing is that podcasts are great for streaming because again they emulate radio, and radio has always been here, and radio has always been streaming. So those two things were born as streaming. So now that they're, like you take a look at TV, like Netflix is streaming, but TV has always been streaming, right? But now that you bring the modern day equivalency to these platforms or to these mediums, you modernize them. Streaming works so well for them, and subscription services can work so well alongside the streaming kind of like reality. And this is true, of course. Obviously, we had subscription models again for the longest. We had cable. Cable was a subscription, you know. So it's like you see the from the origin, from the outset, it made sense. Now, two mediums where streaming doesn't work well and has proven itself not to work well or not to work with the same amount of ease has been books and video games. Books have never been streaming. Like forget about audiobooks because we all know those are different things. But books have never been streaming. There was never a time where a person, would sit down on the radio and read a book to you. That didn't happen. Books have always been kind of a la carte purchases. There are book like subscription models that can happen, but you see that it's not a big deal. Now audiobooks are really great for streaming because again they are closer to radio than they are to actual books. But there you go. Video games similarly were always a la carte, or at least back in the arcade they were paper round or whatever, which again is not streaming. And so when you bring the modern day wonder that streaming is supposed to be, do not be surprised if from the onset these things, like, we didn't get books wrong. Do you get what I mean? Like, it wasn't a failure on our part as a species to not figure out a way to stream books when books were first coming out. Like when the first printing press was happening, we didn't fuck it up. We had it right. Buy this thing a la carte. So you're trying to like go against, I guess, thousands of years of like experience. It's not gonna work. Same thing with games. Like we didn't get gaming wrong when we didn't give you a magical TV channel where you could, tune into, see a game, and then play with your remote control via streaming. Like if the medium was going to work well for that, we would have figured out a way to make it happen. And that is that is one of the core issues with service, subscriptions when it comes to like these games. Same thing with PlayStation Plus, same thing with like EA Play and everything like that. These things can work well so long as you sort of reap the benefit of the a la carte traditional model first, and then you can go on and stream your back catalog or things that you've already made your money on. That has worked well for PlayStation Plus. That has worked for so many other people. Matter of fact, this month, God of War Ragnarok, a Game of the Year winner or a Game of the Year contender at least, um, is now joining the PlayStation Plus catalog after it has made these millions and millions of dollars to justify itself. And now it can bolster the value proposition of, it can have a secondary lease of life base or like a tertiary lease of life because they also went to PC already. And now it's on PlayStation Plus. I particularly like it. I wish, if it were me, I wish a PlayStation game will come out a la carte for whatever price they believe that they is a fair price for that particular game and whatever price their customers are, willing to pay. And then it will go actually to PlayStation Plus like 2 years later. I think you should stay on PlayStation for longer than that letting it stay. And then once it's in PlayStation Plus, then about 2 or 3 months later, that's when I think you should go to PC. I think you should always make your home platform kind of like the best platform. Like, yes, if you want to play our game, here it is, buy it whenever you want. It's on sale, you can buy it a la carte, and it will go on sale eventually. Like it might be $40, every a year later, $30 a year after that. But then, oh, since you were not tempted by that, now we are moving into our subscription service, part of our game catalog. Then after that, we'll put it on PC. So it's like, okay, well, if you were never gonna come to us anyway, like we tempted you with the initial offer, we tempted you with the sales that we ran, we tempted you with the subscription model. Now we are going to now put it on your preferred device for 70, or whatever the initial original price was. Then, about a year after that, we now send it back to PlayStation, but now we put it in the PlayStation Plus extra games. So that even for the people on PlayStation who did not want to sign up all the way to the catalog, now they can get it too. I think to me, that feels like it upholds the integrity and the value of the platform. You get it first. By the time it's on PC, you've got it on your subscription model, so you have an easier access to it, so on and so forth. I think it can retain a lot of people in the ecosystem. I think that works well, and I think that's what Xbox should also do. It's what it should have done in the past, is what it should do now. I guess that's my contribution. Because before, I'm thinking to myself, how many times am I going to say Xbox sucks, or the strategy sucks, or the brand identity is dying as far as the actual console hardware is coming? And then there are a lot of rumors all over the place. Is it going to be a handheld? Is it going to be Xbox Prime, whatever the fuck that is? Um, and what are we supposed to do with that? What are we supposed to do with these constant rumors? Like, okay, if there's a handheld, bring it to me, show it to me. I'll consider it. I will consider it. I'm not against buying Xbox hardware. I'm not against the Xbox value proposition. I'm not against the Xbox ecosystem. I think that they have made a lot of missteps, and I've talked about this ad nauseum. So, we are currently what, the 19th or something of 18th of January, and ever since the first, I've been thinking, how do I find an angle that is actually contributing something that I haven't just said before? Of course, I also have Potterworks channel. That one is live. I actually do want to do live sessions over here because I think I like to be a lot more conversational. I think that I like longer form content. I like taking my time to explain my thoughts, but then it will also be a lot of fun to have guests, have people come, and even in the chat, even if it's just like a kind of like audio to text interface, it will still be better, I think, than just having a video where I'm talking to myself, posting it after, and then hoping that 4 or 5 people will create comments. So I think I am seeing the benefits of the live format, and I think it would be a cool direction to try. So we'll see, if I can make it happen. I think it's also the tricky thing there is that most of the viewership is American, which means that you guys are 16 to 19 hours behind where I am, and that can be tricky to do. But honestly, I'm not looking to have 1,000 people in my chat either. So maybe if it was just Hero Downloader and World Warner or some other Australians that I've come across, that would be fun. That would be fun to do. But again, for about 18 days, I'm thinking to myself, how do I talk about Xbox in a way that isn't just constantly bashing on them or constantly telling them things that they're not going to do ultimately, because ultimately, what are the chances that Phil Spencer, Satya Nadella, Sarah Bond, and all of them get together and say, right, okay, exclusives matter. Let's do a 180 one more time. We've done it before, we can do it again. And then let's get back to doing something more like what Emmanuel thinks we should be doing. I think it would work. I think it would not work this generation, but I think after 4 or 5 years, like imagine if this year all of the wonderful games that they are bringing, they've got Doom: The Dark Ages, they've got South of Midnight, they've unfortunately got Disavow, but we'll just forgive them for that one. But they have so many games. I think they have 4 or 5, like genuinely great, almost all of them, if not Game of the Year contender worthy, at least people's personal Game of the Year contender worthy games. And not games that people are fake hyping like Hi Fi Rush or Indiana Jones, where they just, you know, um, I don't know. I don't know exactly why people think that they accomplish it by pretending that these games are like way better than they actually are. When it's like, you're not going to fool anyone. But South of Midnight, Doom: The Dark Ages, Gears E-Day, Fable, Perfect Dark. I mean, from where we are standing right now on the 18th of January, these games look amazing. Imagine if all of those games were genuine exclusives, not just console exclusive as in keep it off PlayStation, but genuine exclusives like, no, you only get these on Xbox, at least at launch, and then PC maybe a year later. I think they would do phenomenal. I think they would do phenomenal. Imagine if these games were not day and date. Maybe what they will do is just like a compressed timeline, like set it a la carte, and that's like 9 months. Give it a pregnant pause, then put it on Game Pass, and that's like 6 months even, right? And then that gives people an incentive to like, oh, okay, now it's at an affordable price. Well, let me get on play on Xbox, and you have the Series S to be for the people that were, never gonna support you that hard. You got the Series S there, so they can pick that up. And then 6 months later, put it on PC. Then again, a la carte. Then 6 months after that, put it on PC Game Pass. I think that pipeline would work so well. It would turn the fortunes around. I really, really do. But this is just things that will never happen. Then there's Nintendo. Let's talk a little bit about Nintendo. I want to give my shout out to Nintendo. They came out with their quick tease or slash hardware aesthetic reveal of the Nintendo Switch 2. Looks phenomenal. It looks to me like a better Switch. And that's exactly what I expected. I expected a better Switch. That's it. I've never had any kind of desire for Nintendo to somehow rock the world, like people are talking nonsense. According to me, I think it's nonsense. Like, oh, the Switch 2 will have PlayStation 4 Pro power. Bro, I would love if it had PlayStation 4 power. But even if it didn't quite reach the PlayStation 4, I just think that it's silly to make that comparison in the first place because it's a Switch. What it has to do is just be more powerful than the Switch and be a large enough step that you can see a difference on your side. But one thing that I was thinking is that with the bigger screen, with some of the redesign to the hardware, with the direction, with the user base, with the install base, with the nature that they already have inherited with the original Switch, this is going to be a fantastic time for indie games. Like, if the Switch was great for indies, I think the Switch 2 is going to live off of indies. I think that indies are going to explode on the Switch platform, because more people will be aware of it, more people will have it. There are already more systems that are in place now that, a lot of these developers know how to develop and code for the Switch. And then you're giving them more power, more horsepower, more things to work with, more real estate to make the game more enjoyable. And you've taken away none of the features that people would want. They didn't drop, the Apple to the TV or anything like that. So I just think this is going to be a fantastic platform. And I think that indie developers are going to make it shine extremely bright. So I'm really looking forward to what Nintendo has to reveal. I think their games are obviously going to do phenomenal, but I think that indies are going to be incredible. Now, before we go forward, we need to give credit where credit is due. Kind of Funny, the channel. I haven't watched Kind of Funny in years, but just a day ago also, they had an interview with Shuhei Yoshida. And that is been one of the most free flowing, one of the most beautiful, one of the most insightful interviews that we've had in, I think, a very long time. I think the last time that I gave this amount of credit was to like Jason Schreier or something like that. But the interview with Shuhei Yoshida is phenomenal. It's an absolute must watch. If you really care about any of this gaming stuff, 31 years at Sony, and he actually went to answer questions that I didn't even think he was going to answer. I thought he was going to give much more PR responses, but aside for one or two that he avoided talking about, with respect to Xbox, with respect to certain cancelled projects that he had, 99% of the questions, okay, maybe not 99, but 90% of the questions he answered very candidly, in very insightfully, in a way that is so disarming that you don't even understand like the huge implications behind it. But since we're talking about Nintendo for now, he also said something very interesting and something that I had said before, but I think when I said it, I kind of said it in a disparaging way so people don't really get the message. But I always said that Nintendo games are made for kids. And what he said, I guess a more charitable way, is that Nintendo trains up, children to become video game fans. And those video game fans eventually turn into PlayStation fans, And this isn't to be like, oh, when they get mature enough, blah, 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 they don't like Nintendo games anymore. But it's like, no, they are the onboarding house. It's a very important role. And even I've said that before. We cannot lose Nintendo because Nintendo is the platform that brings us all along. Like my first video game, like on a console, was Mario. Like that's what made me fall in love with video games. So it's like it's Nintendo. My little brother, right, 14 years younger than me, his very first consoles were all Nintendo consoles. The DSs, the 3DSs, the Switch eventually. Um, that's all thanks to Nintendo. Now he plays on PlayStation. He kind of uses Switch once in a while. I haven't asked him if he's going to get a Switch 2. He works now, so it's like he could get it for himself. But I don't think that he necessarily will get a Switch 2. But doesn't change that, like so many gamers, we all started on Nintendo. And with the Switch 2, I believe that Nintendo is only going to do more and more good for the industry because they're going to train up more and more younger generations to love the art of video games. And that's really what it's about. It's about the art of video games. And then those kids are eventually going to diversify their palette, and they're eventually going to dabble in PlayStation, in Xbox, in PC, in whoever is next, in mobile phone games and everything like that. So we have a huge, and the good thing about Nintendo is that they do not exploit they exploit, I guess, the parents that have to pay all of these heavy prices for things that are quite, often, um, you know, kind of, the charge at the premium. Let's put it that way. However, the actual gamers themselves, whether those are kids or whether those are adults, they treat them well. Like very few Nintendo games that are actually on the console exploit with like microtransactions or live service BS or loot boxes and things like that. None that I know of. And a lot of the games are single player games that are some of the most artistically robust games that the entire industry can create. They show children that video games can be a lot more than just a pastime. It can be an art form. Just as you can enjoy books, just like you can enjoy shows, you can enjoy video games in a very deep way. And I'm incredibly grateful to Nintendo for that. And I think that the Switch 2, even if it's just a Switch, a better Switch, it's a fantastic thing. If it is a much more powerful Switch, then I think it's even better, right? Because at the end of the day, it just means that more games will be able to be created on that platform. So there's my shout out to Nintendo. I think you guys are doing fantastically. Let's talk about PlayStation. PlayStation is in the news, as of a few hours ago, because it turns out that there's a Bloomberg article that basically said that they cancel two live service games. I'm going to basically read the tweet that I made about this, and then we will kind of discuss it right afterwards. So, oh, this still works, isn't that nice? Okay, so over here we have Zubitech. Shout out to you, Zubitech. You do great work. PlayStation Studios live service slash multiplayer games cancelled. From Deviation game, it was a multiplayer game. I guess we don't know it. I don't think the name was multiplayer. Naughty Dog, The Last of Us Part 2, it was actually online, not factions that it was called. It was The Last of Us Online. But it came from the idea, I think, originated factions, so I can get that. It was a live service game. London Studio, it was a fantasy live service multiplayer that closed the studio. Insomnia Games, there was a live service multiplayer game. I think this one was like a Spider-Man universe thing. Didn't work out. Pirate Spy game had Twisted Metal multiplayer, didn't work out. I think this one could have worked out. This one would be one that, sometimes these games close. Also, these games are cancelled, and you kind of wish that there was like a bit more transparency as to maybe like 5 or 6 years later, like show us what's like why some of these projects closed. But hey, maybe one day there'll be like a no clip documentary on these particular projects. Firespite Games had an action shooter, supposedly live service. Fireworks Studios had Concord, and that got unreleased in in 2 weeks, and then the studio was closed, unfortunately. Blue Point had the God of War, apparently God of War live service game, which I've got to say I don't understand how this idea would have ever worked. In fact, I'm very curious about it because I don't think they would have let it go on this long if there was no way to make it work. And since I can think of no way to make it work, I'm very curious as to what they even got that made them excited to do this in the first place. And then from Ben Studio, there was another live service game, and that closed as well. So these are the two most recent ones, Bluepoint and Bend. And it has sent the internet, especially the world of Twitter, into a whole frenzy. Here's my tweet about it. I said, I applaud PlayStation for not putting out products they cannot stand behind. Anyone who habitually interacts with creativity knows that 90% of your work is left behind. And the 10% you do release isn't guaranteed success either. That's the nature of the beast. I continue. Still, I do not believe that live service games should be Sony's focus. They must become great at multiplayer games, but live service is a Pandora's box, or maybe a necessary evil. I think multiplayer PvE games with no live service elements are an untapped market. To all the creatives affected, keep your head up. Don't listen to assholes on Twitter. Make of your next project something that makes you proud, whether it's live service, multiplayer, single player, or something altogether unexpected. That's my tweet. And I want to say I really stand behind this tweet, okay? I'm a photographer. I have taken over 200,000 snaps, photos, clicks of the shutter, whatever you want to call it. I've deleted 75% of that. Like I have about 40,000 images in my hard drives, whatever, in my catalog of photos that I've kept. I've deleted easily 75% of my work because it's not even worth keeping. Like it's that bad. It's just that useless. Sometimes I delete things not because the image by itself is bad, but because I've done a burst shot and then there's like 15 shots in a row, and I only need the one where people are looking at the face and everything. That's the golden one. The other 14 they can die. Okay. But even when I'm doing something for myself, which is a lot more creative, whether I'm shooting macro photography, I'm shooting, natures and everything like that, um, I still delete a lot. In fact, I actually did it more for my own creative work than I do for like other people and client work. Because client work, you always want to kind of keep extras just in case they want like a different angle that you didn't think was going to work anyway. But sometimes they fall in love with a photo you don't particularly care for. Sometimes that's a good thing because it's, their eyes looking at things. Other times it's just like, you know what? Some people like things that you as a creative, you're like, you know what? I guess I do get that I'm getting paid, it's whatever, right? But with my own work, if I go out and I take 300 photos, whether that's nature, landscape, macro, or whatever it is that might excite me, I might bring out three that I put out in the world. Like three that I print. Like, for example, there's a print behind me of the 12 apostles. I'll show you this at the moment because the camera's not going to focus on it. And I'll bring it up the photo, but that would bog down the video. But I have a printer behind me. And actually, you know what? Fine. I'll show you the photo. I thought of a way. I think I have saved it in my Google Photos folder. So we're going to see if I have it over here. I think I have it over here. Okay, I have that version over there. So you know what? So it's like a little mini hiatus. Uh, you know, Here's what I'll do. I'm gonna show you some of my favorite photos that I've taken myself. Yes, me. I'm a photographer. This is what I do. These are the photos. I think all of these photos are for me. The photos that I've taken for myself and when I was traveling or when I went out specifically. So we're going to see a few photos and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Okay, so the first one is this one. This one is actually very close to home. I went out and I was testing a lens. I saw this scene. I took it. I like it. It is what it is. This one over here, it was an art gallery, kind of showing exposition thing in Melbourne. Loved it. Took this photo, kind of like it. Okay. Then over here, we have this one, person surfing. Great surfer. He was having a lot of fun. I had a few snaps of him. And this is like the one or two photos from this entire day that I took thousands of photos. I think at least 800 photos this day, and this is like one of maybe five that I would ever show, and that I'm actually proud of. This is another one from the same day. So yeah, this one over here, we traveled. We went all the way to another city. This is the one photo that I bought back that I really really liked. And again, this one over here, one of my favorite photos of all time. It's just, this one, it's kind of lucky. This is one of those things where I'm trying out a new technique and it just worked out pretty much perfectly. This one over here is actually really fun. I was actually on my bicycle for this particular photo. And, oh, yeah, my camera is kind of hiding the thing here. Hold on. There you go. There's a full photo. So I'm on my bicycle and I am moving. Like I'm pedaling my bicycle, and obviously you can pedal without hands on the handlebar. And I've got my camera clipped to my shoulder, so it's kind of easy access. And I'm behind these guys for about 2 minutes. So before we get to this particular stage, and I'm seeing this like wisteria tree or whatever this tree is called. And I thought to myself, like, I know this thing because I've cycled on this particular road for a lot of times. So I know that this bend is coming, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Let me slow down so that they will be pretty much in this position. And I captured them. And obviously, I took a bird shot. It's not like I just took a single shot, but for the entire day, this is kind of like the one shot that I'm most proud of. And it just looks phenomenal if you ask me. Okay, so this one's another one, very beautiful, kind of like very bulk standard shot, but it's kind of like, it's one of those shots that you are happy to just get. This one over here, kind of standard shot. This is Melbourne City. Welcome to our skyscraper skyline thing. So in case you are curious about that, that's what it looks like. Yeah, this one here is like a local creek. It's nice. It's just like a small place. Most people don't know about it. This place, a lot of flies, flies are awful and you shouldn't go there, so don't go there. This one over here, less flies, but there was like a stingray that wanted to, get way too close to me. So watch out for water creatures. They are very weird. Okay, this one over here is near the Stingray location. It's a different direction. One of my favorite photos of all time. I love the colors. I just think that it's kind of brilliant actually. Really like it. This one over here, it's like 112 Apostles, a very famous destination in Victoria. There it is. You have to do this. Like you're a photographer, you have to go there. You have to take these shots. So it is what it is. This one over here, I forget exactly what this particular rock is called, but it's supposed to actually be in color. It's supposed to actually have beautiful skies, like kind of like the previous photo. Well, actually, this is terrible skies, but kind of like the one before that, like this one, is supposed to be there. And sometimes when you wake up in the morning and you drive 3 hours and you get there, it's just cloudy and gray, despite all of your planning and preparation and weather reports. So this one over here, I just remember the leeches. Just leeches on me, leeching off of me. Very disgusting animals, and you bleed a lot, and your blood doesn't coagulate because that's how leeches work. And they're very annoying to take off, but it gave me one of the only forest shots I actually like. Okay, I prefer the version of this one that's actually vertical, but it is what it is. Okay, this one over here, very fun, lots of mosquitoes. Yeah. By the way, I'm just going through my work over here and I'm just like disparaging my work. But the point is, you take a look at all of these photos and you realize that I've taken over 200,000. And right now, I'm showing you a collection of maybe 50 to 80 photos. And that's what creativity is. Creativity is leaving a lot of your work behind so that you can show the few that are actually worth showing, you know? So this is macro photography. Like I love this shit, taking flowers and everything like that. What I like about this photo, if you must know, is that, it's got a flower that's not perfect. Most of the time, when I take a look at, when I go and I shoot flowers in the first place, I'm going, kind of like at the perfect moment. And this one was actually like, this was exposed to the sun for a long time. It was way past the blooming season. And I thought, oh, okay, there's decay happening here, but why not capture it? Because it too can be beautiful. So there it is. I'm morbid like that. That's how I am. This one's nice. It's a rose and it's not decaying and it's real. It's nice. This one's another one, real follow. This is a friend. I haven't talked to her in a while. But yeah, so you see it. You see, this is street photography. It's not people that I know. Um, but you see what I mean. Like a lot of my photos are just things that I have taken, and they are the 1% of the 1% of my photos. I am very comfortable with the idea now that most of my work will not be worth showing. So when people are losing their minds online, I just like this photo. We're just gonna have this photo in the background. Yeah. When people are losing their minds online about these studios canceling their projects, guys, what did you think was going to happen? PlayStation, I believe, they must figure out uh multiplayer games. They must. They have to. We have these single player games, that are costing two, three, four, $500 million. Call of Duty, one the Call of Duty, I think it was a Black Ops 3 or no, Black Ops 6, whatever, whichever one the most recent one was. Apparently that one was rumored to be $700 million. Or at least one of them was like 700 million. This is a reality that we're living in now. I personally don't have a problem with that. I think it's weird when people are like, oh my God, games should cost less. Why? Why are you going to take the money out? Are you going to pay the people less? Are you going to be less ambitious? Are you going to just recycle the same thing that you did before? Where do you want to take the money out of it? No, I don't believe that taking money out of games is necessarily the thing we should first aim for. I think the very first thing we should aim for is bringing more money into games. So right now, you have all of these, ballooning budgets and everything, and you're going to need a cash cow in order to finance these things. And when you take a look at the most popular games, the games that are making the most money, all of them seem to have multiplayer components. That's not my preference. I would prefer single player games to be the ones making the most money. If a single player game could make $1 billion in sales consistently, like probably GTA 6 is going to do very easily. That's what I would prefer. That's me. But the market, the younger generation, they care about the Roblox, the Fortnites, the Call of Duties, the Apex Legends, games that I don't have any interest in. Like I don't play any of these games. But I guess when I was younger, I used to play RuneScape, and that was an MMO, and I would spend lots of time and lots of money there. So maybe it's just like your transitional phase, like between your Nintendo filled fun and your eventual maybe single player love. Maybe there's a good 10 years in between where you just play multiplayer games all the time. And those multiplayer games in this era look like live service games. I think that is a failure of the industry to provide alternatives. I don't think that live service games are this panacea, this great cornucopia where everybody can just feed themselves. I think that it's rather a takes all kind of paradigm. There are going to be very few winners in the live service economy, in the live service industry, and a whole bunch of losers. But the thing is, Sony as a corporation charges PlayStation gamers for online access. And the point of that online access is for you to play uh, multiplayer games. EA doesn't charge you anything on PlayStation to play the game. It comes from PlayStation. So they have to justify that price tag, according to me. Pardon me for the interruption. They have to justify that price tag, according to me, with their own multiplayer games. And that's what it is. So that's what I believe. Now, I'm going to just go quickly through the commentary over here. Over here, it says, yeah, but at this point, what new games are we really going to get for PS5 with long development times? It's making me excited for PS6 though. And what I said is, you're going to get the games you get. I don't know. I don't know how many games we're gonna get. I'm not sure if we are owed games. Like, does Apple owe you an iPhone 17 or an iPhone 18? What if they just kept making the iPhone 16 for like 3 straight years because they thought it was good enough, or because they couldn't find the next breakthrough? Would you then go like, oh, Apple, you owe me the next iPhone? I don't know if that's our position as customers, but hey, I'll let you guys debate about it. Then over here, if you had this person say, I think they learned the lesson with Concord. I think so, because again, don't put a product that you can't stand behind. I think Concord was a clearly something that was just getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. Like the odds of it performing well were just getting more and more impossible. Like just more and more difficult as time went on, and the reception was so bad. But they tried, and I think that they're going to say this person here. Did you say the same for Scalebound? I wasn't there when Scalebound. I wasn't paying attention to this thing when Scalebound was there. But the difference is with Scalebound, they announce it publicly. This is what I always say. Do not announce your game until you're 18 months from launch. Do not do it. Don't announce it, because then people have the right to be angry at you. Because when you announce a game, that's a promise. It's a promise you will deliver. And if you don't deliver, people have the right to be upset. If I created a, let's say, a, I don't know, photography course, and then I told you that as part of your payment or whatever it is, or your subscription, that I'm going to come to you personally and go out on a shoot with you. And then that never happens, not just for you, but for anyone else in the course. You all have the right to be angry at me, because that's something that I announced or something that I promised. And you paid for my thing with the assumption that these things will be delivered. Don't announce your projects until you're 18 months. Like basically, if you can announce and release your project within 6 months, that's even better, because then you know that what you're announcing will be delivered. Okay. Over here, should we applaud them for wasting their best studios' time on BS live service projects? Yes. Yes, you should. Because if they don't try, how are they going to learn? Failure is not a thing to be avoided. By trying to dodge failure, you also avoid success. Like when this Jim Ryan came out and he said 12 live service games were in development, didn't we all say that at least 6 of them will be canceled? So why are we being here now mad that the 6 were canceled? It's what you predicted. Most of you say that there are only like 2 or 3 of those that will be successful. You've got maybe Gran Turismo 7 if you want to be generous. You've got Helldivers 2 as a definite yes. And then maybe you have 1 or 2 more of these live service games that will even attain a modicum of success, not Helldivers 3 levels of success, just a passable amount of success. We all know this, and they have to learn because, yes, it's more public now. The only difference between this era and the previous one is that we are as customers and we as game enthusiasts are a lot more aware of what goes on behind the scenes, even though I feel like in getting more information, we've gained less knowledge because we only get like the headlines, oh, this game was cancelled. None of us are more educated about the actual gaming process or the gaming industry. And unfortunately, because companies are set up the way that they are, they shut down the developers. They do kind of, it's like it's a good and a bad thing, but they prevent the developers from speaking out on these particular things. And so we get more information, but we get less knowledge. And that is just the void, the silence is filled with assumptions and reactions. And it's very sad. Okay. So over here, Concord says hi. I don't know how you guys like. Yeah, Concord was a huge flop and a huge failure, the worst failure that PlayStation has ever had. It is what it is. Now over here, so why authorize it? Because you don't know. Like, why do you think I take so many photos? Do you think I just go there and I take photos because I think, oh, it'll be so fun to delete them? You don't know what's gonna work out until you try. Like, that's what it is. They don't know if a project is going to be successful until they try. And again, when it comes to like a God of War live service game, to my brain, that doesn't seem smart. When it comes to live service games, to my particular tendency, that doesn't seem smart. I think that PvE games are widely untapped. And I think that the people that will catch in on that are going to be hugely successful in a way different way than a live service multiplayer shooter game is going to be, or PvP game. Just to finally get the point across. In that kind of funny interview, Shuhei Yoshida, he said that some of the hardest decisions that he made during the PS3 was canceling two particular projects that each cost $25 million. Now, at the time, I want you to know that during the PS3, most AAA games, including third party, were averaging around 10 to 20 million to develop and release the full game. So at 25 million, you're already above the cost to create most AAA games. Now, the most exceptional games were pushing like 30 to 40 million dollars. So even by that metric, you're already over the halfway, like you're 60 to 70% of the development budget for the entire game. This is assuming that you're not already over budget. And he had to kill two of them. Imagine if today's era heard about such cancellations, they will crucify him. Because how could he have shut down, wasted? People are like, oh, why would they waste so much money? Is it your money, bro? Like, did it take from you? You've lost nothing, you know? But the developers have hopefully learned, the management has hopefully learned, and hopefully they are going to come up with great products for you and for me. And that's really the message, At the end of the day, oh, I realized I was reading and I wasn't even showing the on screen. It is what it is. At the end of the day, it is a good thing for companies not to release products they don't believe in. Because even if they had gone through all of the way and released these products, yes, there is a 10% chance that they would have been way more successful than they ever dreamed of and everything like that. But that's highly unlikely. At the end of the day, whether it's me as a photographer, whether it's you, and I'm not even talking about like a career, I'm talking about you as a person who interacts with creativity. You could be a singer, a golfer, a basket weaver, a knitting clothes or whatever. You could be an artist, you could be a painter, you could be a writer, you could be whatever it is that you are, whatever it is that you do, even if it's just for fun and just as a hobby. Every time you challenge your creativity, you don't know whether it's gonna work or not. So I think all companies should be encouraged and should be forgiven for taking a shot that didn't work, taking a gamble that didn't work. Because at the end of the day, when we demand more creativity, more innovation, more discovery, more emotion, better gameplay, and better graphics and better sounds and better acting and better writing and all of these things, we have to realize that the more and more and more we want from a project to achieve, the higher the risk it is that that particular project will fail. And failure is not a thing to be avoided. It is a thing, it is a part, it is a part of the journey to be walked through. You have to go through failure to eventually reach success. Helldivers, the first one, probably was a flop. Let's face it. But Helldivers, the second one, colossal success. Imagine if they had stopped at the first. Imagine if they hadn't been brave enough to give the budget to the second. People, you want gaming to be great, yes, but accept that no human is perfect. So they're not going to give you greatness every single time. Encourage people to try, let them fail, especially when they haven't done anything wrong by you. Those are my thoughts.